The most prestigious Czech and Slovak virtual racing series is back. The best drivers from Czechia and Slovakia, competing in 12 races on iRacing. Who is going to win the championship trophy? That's Mercedes-Benz Virtual GP 2021. Hello and welcome back to the Mercedes-Benz Virtual GP 2021 season. We're back on the European continent and in the UK for the first time this season as our drivers prepare to tackle the classic Donington Park. My name is Justin Sutton and joining me as always, it's Chris Buxton.
Back on my territory this time, Donington Park has seen various different categories of racing, from the smallest go-karts to the mightiest of GT3s, and that is exactly the home that the VGP GT3s will be tackling. So at the top of the table, it is once again the LPs up top, Lucas Buxton and Lucas Buxton leading the way, but the Entropic driver with some distance behind him, but we will see if he's able to maintain that lead. But throughout the tables, still plenty of battling going on. Stanislav Senol at the top of the latter half of the table, but fiercely contested nonetheless. Still a few people yet to get off the mark, but still plenty of races to do so. We'll see if they're able to do so at this very challenging circuit. As a result of mainly Podstarter's hard work, with Matuszek doing well as well, and Tropic having that commanding lead at the top ahead of ERT. He sets a little bit no man's land in third position there, but lots of racing still to conclude.
Here are the conditions for today. Lap record Simon Kovacic in the Mercedes GT3 last year, 125. 65 degrees Fahrenheit, 18 degrees centigrade is the air temperature. And here is the starting grid. It is Lucas Buxton that takes that pole position alongside Michael Lehman. Really impressive stuff, actually, in the Mecha All for Sim. Joining him on that front row and just 9,000ths of a second behind as well. Very, very close. Lucas Buxton will start from third position. Not ideal for him, but still very near the front alongside Martin Sirotek in the ESET car. Eric Vizzi from fifth position is alongside the other Buxton brother of David, who starts with a 126.0. Very, very close between them as well. Just 1/100th of a second. Then we get a little bit further down. Martin Nadlik in the other Benzina Orlin car in seventh position alongside the other Entropic of Michael Matuszek. Then we get a little bit further down outside the top 10, Stanislav Senol, who has been finishing just in the lower half of the top 10 recently. He'll be starting from just outside the top 10, looking to gain some positions there. Vakulchek from 19th position coming back to the VGP grid and joining us once again. And it is Jan Sikora bringing up the rear. The VGP veteran. We know how good he is in the races. He's having a bit of a difficult season so far in the GT3 cars. We'll see if that all turns around in a couple races time when we switch to the single-seaters. But for now, we turn our attention towards Donington Park and the Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3 cars that are preparing to go racing. And we are away. We got a green flag. Oh, in the background there, somebody going a little, really far to the right, actually going into the grass even. But it is Lucas Buxton that continues to lead the way. Michael Lehman holds on to that second place position as well. Side by side battling for fourth though coming out of the first corner. So some very close action here. Some more side-by-side. The ESAC car looks like he's narrowly going to edge out the Lenovo Legion. That's Eric Vizzi, just about losing out to the ESAC car up ahead. But he does manage to hold on to that 5th place position. But it looks like a fairly clean start. I'm still seeing pretty much all of the cars. We're awaiting the timing tower any moment here, Chris. But it does look like it's been a pretty clean start. I haven't seen any major issues. Everybody's pretty single file at this point already.
So far, so good as we come over one of the most challenging corners in the circuit. That is Coppice leading onto Starkey Straight. And there is the tower. Well, Stepanovsky's had a bit of a problem. He's a little bit off the back of the field, but nothing he can't regain, I would think. Now through the Fogarty S's, using the full layout of the Donington Park circuit. Whoa, that was, I was going to say, oh no, Matushak, that's a slowdown penalty. Oh, this early in the race is always bad. Oh my goodness me. It's all kicking off now as Thomas Horror with a big moment there in the big shot car. No pun intended. Yeah, well, flash of the lights right behind him from Kovarik. He wasn't best pleased with that. I'm not sure really Thomas Horror could have done an awful lot about it. Just kind of momentum carried him back into the field, but no major impact. But yeah, but so far so good, albeit from the well, there is Vukolchik still flashing his lights, so he's he's had further difficulties, it would seem, but no major disasters so far. So good.
Yeah, pretty clean. All the cars within 12 seconds on the opening lap. 53 minutes of racing await us. And I did see, I think that was Thomas Corney was getting a bit of aggressive on the front straight, on the start-finish straight, heading down towards turn 1 at Redgate, of course. And there is Thomas Corney. Wow, as that is incredible the way that they did that. And he is all over the back of Matushak, who got that slowdown penalty. And as you mentioned, Chris, it's so destructive to your race when you get one of those penalties so early in the race. Lap 1 is the absolute worst time for that to possibly happen, and he is definitely feeling the effects. And you can see a bit of a gap now starting to form between himself and Stanislav Stenel, who is now up into the top 10. I did say he is one to gain positions. Oh no! Oh no, and Alish Danda, who I remember actually had a really difficult time last race, if I'm remembering correctly. He has had an unfortunate incident. That's at the S's, and that has sent him right off. Meanwhile, up at the front, though, it is Lehman versus Podstado. Lehman's gone very, very deep. He's going to lose a couple of positions. He's having lots of trouble getting onto the throttle, coming onto the start-finish straight, and that is definitely going to be really disruptive to his race. He's going to lose a couple of positions as a result of that. Lucas Pichata claims the fastest lap of the race, and because of that incident, Chris, he now has an almost 1.5 second gap.
Michael Lehman was helped wide there at Goddard's, which is that final hairpin turn coming back onto the Wheatcroft straight, the start-finish straight, by Lucas Bajstada. He was a little bit ambitious going for the apex line there, just gave the ESEC car a tiny nudge. I beg your pardon, the Mecha All-4 Sim car, a tiny nudge that sent Michael Lehman wide. But as you can see, he has lost a number of positions, but not too much in the way of track time. So he should be able to gain that. But Lucas Pichata has a brilliant opportunity now to just run off into the distance. What happened to Mr. Stepanovsky? Oh, as he had a big punch in the face early on. Oh, the 4 wide coming down the crane of curves. Oh, and he just nudges it. He managed to kind of mitigate how hard he was going to hit the wall. Stepanovsky, well, with Alish Danda's issue, Stepanovsky is now not in last, but he's actually caught the back of the pack, so he didn't gain a lot of damage as a result of that. But yeah, going 4 wide, going from Redgate down to Hollywood towards the crane curves, is only ever going to spell disaster. These cars are not the smallest in the world, as that's Kujela that's just lost that spot to Thomas Horror. Although trying to have a go back as we head into Goddard's, but not getting it done. More side-by-side going on. That's the T-Peeling boys. They were kind of stone dead last for a little while. There's Thomas Prohaska that's trying to make a move, and looks like he's managed to do so. Still trying to get the move done. Oh no, that's what happens when you brake on the grass. The Ricard car, that's Moritz, has got that one wrong. Just a tiny touch of the grass plus brakes equals spin, as is nicely demonstrated. There's Kovarik is in the pits this early on. That cannot be good for his race prospects. So we jump back to Michael Lehman, still in that 5th position, hanging onto the back of Eric Vizzi. Here we go. This is going to be the spin with Alish Danda. So what happened here? Has he missed his braking point? Because he was... Oh, yeah, there's another example of braking on the grass. As that was really well avoided by the mega car right ahead of him.
That was something. It's not every day you see an incident like that, but yeah, that just snapped on him, and he was just a passenger at that point. But great job by all the drivers around him, actually, to avoid that incident, because, yeah, no contact in the end with any cars or anything like that. The car ahead going just a little bit off track in order to avoid that, but I would imagine if there was any sort of penalty or anything like that being considered, that would be thrown out, because, yeah, that was very clearly evasive maneuvers, just getting out of the way of Alish Danda with that incident at the S's, but really well done by everybody involved. This is that battle for what is essentially second position. I will say Podstadas closed that gap back up to Lucas Pichata a little bit. It's now down to 1.25 seconds between the leading duo, but it's still the biggest gap that you will find within the top five, no doubt about it. And that's including Michael Lehman, who had that big issue, unfortunately, at that hairpin. So the final hairpin on the lap. So yeah, looking at this, continuing to look at this battle for second position. Really unfortunate for Moritz, by the way. I think it was Zolder where we saw him with a little bit of bad luck as well, where again, he was just quite a ways back. But Jan Sikora, by the way, shout out to Jan Sikora. I did mention that he was having a little bit of trouble this season, but he's all the way up into 16th position after starting stone dead last. So it's actually been a really good race so far for the TP-Link driver of Jan Sikora.
Certainly has, as we look at our leaders now. Oh, and Lucas Pichata has got a face full of back marker. That's Kovarik has come out of the pits. That is likely to just help Lucas Podstata close that gap down, as the he had the VR and Dexwin car staying right out of the way, and he's got a lot of people to jump out of the way of. That's going to hurt his particular pace. So he's slotted back into position. Yeah, flash of the lights from Eric Vizzi. I'm not really surprised, but you know, he doesn't want to jump off the road and just send himself off into oblivion. He will still want to maintain pace. He will have to get out of the way, though, or he will run the... There he goes. Yeah, he will run the risk of upsetting the stewards. That possibly will have cost Eric Vizzi some time, as I would just see out the top of the shot there. Yeah, that's Sirotech on the back of Podstarter. So, yeah, the ESET car really keeping the beautiful black liveried Entropic car off Podstarter under pressure, as we continue to look at David Pichata, who did a brilliant job avoiding the errant Alish Danda earlier on. He really well spotted that. He could have, if he just held his racing line, he would have absolutely been sideswiped by the Electrax car, but he saw it coming and actually had to bounce over the dust to avoid that. So brilliantly well driven, and like you say, Justin, well driven by everyone around. As we look at Stanislav Senol chasing after Rozovsky in the Ilanova Legion car, with Matusiak, the second Entropic car, right behind him. Wow, very defensive line from Senol, coming down towards the Melbourne hairpin, forcing the number 42 to remain in position. That's going to be one of the most popular overtaking spots. They built up a fair amount of momentum between Coppice through the Fogarty S's and down to that very heavy braking zone. We'll see a few attempts here at Goddard's as well, but the Melbourne hairpin is going to be the favourite overtaking spot of the night.
Yeah, you really need to be side-by-side already coming out of Melbourne if you want to have a shot into Goddard's. It's just not a long enough run. You're not picking up enough of a slipstream because of the short run that, you know, the cars just aren't going fast enough. Plus the fact that you're coming out of what I assume is a second gear hairpin corner. So, yeah, really not much in the way of slipstream to help you get by the car ahead on the run down into that final corner. But yeah, if you're able to, you know, go around the outside of 11 and maintain that side-by-side position, you can get the inside line into 12, or if you know, likewise, if you get the inside in the low 11, you can try and go around the outside of 12, get the inside of 1. But we're seeing, you know, the drivers are having to get a little creative, which is what we expect from Donington. It's not a traditional circuit in terms of ease of overtaking. Oh, Michael Lehman here definitely looks like he might be keen to have an overtake here. Yeah, on David Pichata. David Pichata is looking a little bit vulnerable here. He's dropped off the back of Eric Vizzi. It's 1.3 seconds thereabouts. And again, Michael Lehman qualified on the front row of the grid. And that's going to be in his mind. And he's going to be, you know, thinking about that constantly as he's stuck behind this other car. He's going to be thinking, I'm the second fastest person here. And that's certainly going to be spurring him on and making him a little bit more desperate. Is he going to try anything into that final corner? No. As we said, it's just not quite long enough, but he is very close out of that final corner. Just about a car length between the two of them, but I don't think that's enough. Again, it's a fairly short run down towards turn 1. It's not an ultra-heavy braking zone either.
No, it isn't. Like I said, because the run is so short between the Melbourne Hairpin and Goddard's, you aren't building up a big enough speed to make that a big braking zone. And someone with the experience of David Pichardo, you are not going to hustle him into a mistake very easily at all. So, I mean, fair play for Michael Lehman for giving it a try. He, since we last saw him a lap or so ago, he lost that position to the ERT Racing Ace. As we jump further downfield, so Jan Sikora, like you said earlier, Justin's having a pretty decent run compared to where his luck has been so far this season. There's Vakulchik right behind, and Stepanovsky, oh my goodness, behind them. Thomas Prohaska almost three-wheeling coming through McLean's. My goodness me. Oh, very, very close coming up to, I beg your pardon, coming up to McLean's now, and that's Stepanovsky kicking up some dust. It is very easy to do. On that particular turn, he's lost that spot to Thomas Prohaska, who then runs wide. It's really easy to do that up at Coppice. That apex is totally blind. The high camera angle that we're using doesn't really give justice to how difficult that corner is. You're going uphill and you're having to brake and turn in well before you see the apex. So you're very much kind of turning in and hoping that you've picked it right. If you go in a slight bit too quickly, you lose so much momentum because you're then onto Starkey Straight, that back straight heading down towards the Fogarty S's. And if you do it too early, you cut over the corner and get a penalty. So it's a very, very difficult corner to get right.
It really is. And this battle has a new contender has approached in the form of Martin Nadlik in the Benzina Orland. So this is the if you've got a red and black and white car, this is the battle for you right here for 5th position with David Pajada in the ERT Racing team leading, and Michael Lehman. Oh, again, Martin Nadley getting very, very close to the back of Michael Lehman there. Lehman just losing a little bit of time, it looked like, through McLean's. If you ask me anyway, but yeah, he's definitely losing a little bit of time. This could be an invitation here. A little bit further back, Stanislav Senel still ahead of Matuszek. Go on, Senel. Still managing to keep that Entropic car behind. The Electra X driver doing a fantastic job, as you would expect. And yeah, putting that Mercedes AMG GT3 car in all the right places to make sure he holds on to that top 10 place. It's not that big of a gap up to Roshovsky either. He's still within about a second and a half or so as well. And then Roshovsky is in a little bit of a no man's land at the moment with a similar gap up ahead to Krejcia, who is bringing up the rear of that four-way battle for 5th position behind David Pachada. But again, Senel doing a great job. Matuszek, unfortunately, still really hurting as a result of that slowdown penalty earlier.
Yeah, that's the way that iRacing goes. If you just wander that little bit too wide, iRacing has no delta to base the penalty on, so the penalty tends to be very, very draconian. But that is the nature of the beasts. If they pick up a slowdown penalty now, because there's several laps established for the drivers, they would pick up a suitable slowdown time. As Michael Lehman is hustling hard to try and get past David Pachadi, trying to cut back underneath the ERT Racing driver there at McLean. So that's actually allowed Martin Nadey for Benzina Roland to close right back in as they come through Coppice now onto Starkey Straight, heading down towards the Fogarty S's again. And this is a very this is how the momentum just swings between Michael Lehman being able to try and press for a position on David Pachada and then suddenly being really under threat by Nadley right behind. And also, like you said earlier, Justin Krejcia's not far behind. Whoa, big move from the Benzina Oracle. That was from quite some distance back, and a punch in the face to Lehman, who's going to lose a position potentially to his teammate as well. Oh my goodness. So from 1 minute for attacking David Pachada for 5th position, now suddenly finds himself down in 7th. Krejcia, I suspect, has just led him back in position there. But dear oh dear, this is not turning into a day for Michael Lehman to remember.
I imagine very, very frustrating, because again, clearly seems very, very quick, but unfortunately had some kind of mistake there, which really opened up the door for Nadlik, who did a fantastic job. Meanwhile, up at the front, oh yeah, I'm glad we switched to this. I had not actually been even watching that gap, but that has come right down. It's now less than half a second between Podstata and Pichata, so very, very close. And there you can see the Entropic driver at the bottom right-hand corner as he's wheeling this thing around this fantastic British circuit. And he's done a great job to close this up, and I'm going to be very interested to see what happens in the pit stop phase. We're not there just yet. In fact, it may still be another 20 minutes or potentially. We have seen that late pit stops tend to be the trend, is what we've seen so far this season. They go beyond what is half distance in the race before going for their pit stop. So I don't expect they're going to be coming into the pits anytime soon, but certainly catching a car is very different to passing a car, especially around here. In the background, by the way, there, Eric Vizzi, yeah, getting very, very close to the back of Sirotech, who's doing an amazing job in third position, by the way. Still less than 2 seconds off the leader. A fantastic job for that ESET car.
Yeah, completely. We know how fast Eric Vizzi is. And in fairness, Sirotech, yeah, being able to defend against the Lenovo Legion legend of Eric Vizzi. Granted, it's only his second season. Oh, that's Matuszek on the inside of Senna. Can he finally dethrone from that top 10 spot the Electronics car at Redgate? Yes, he can. He's out of the inside line for Hollywood. That is job done for the 42 car. It took him a while to get that one done. That's been brilliantly defended by Stanislav Senol. Look how much lean those cars have as they come through the old hairpin. It does look like they're about to fall over, but that's just the nature of the town again, because it's almost like a trench down there at the old hairpin. Yeah, having been to the circuit in real life, when it rains, that part of the circuit becomes a lake. As Senol is forced to the outside around Coppice. That's almost never going to work. Wow, oh me of little faith. I was about to say that almost never works, and here he is. So, well, hold my beer, I'm having this one, and through back up into 10th position before they get to the Fogarty S's, ignoring my commentary, and a flash of the lights from Thomas Horror. Well, that's a bit unusual. I don't know quite what he's flashing his lights about, trying to distract Matuszek, I would think. I don't think he did anything wrong there. It was a pretty decent move from Senol there to regain that 10th spot very nicely. And normally it doesn't work. You generally just run out of room and sent off into oblivion. Whoa, that was a very late defense there from Nadley. Michael Lehman had committed to that, but the Benzina car almost took the nose off the Mecha All 4 Sim car. Now this should go exactly the way we've just seen from Matuszek, but the move's not done. Oh, they're going to be side by side going through the old hairpin. Grit your teeth and hope that one sticks. And and that's what I was worried about. Nadley just touches the grass. He caught that one brilliantly well. However, is not so good. Thomas Horror's a massive incident. I think that's at Starkey's Bridge, so just beyond where we were just looking. A huge, huge incident for the big shot car. We'll get a replay of that, I'm sure, in due course. But wow, that was very, very sudden.
Wow, you don't see stuff like that very often. Holy cow. And obviously, he was involved in that battle between Senol and Matuszek for the final position within the top 10. Also, credit to Krejcia. Once again, Krejcia manages to sneak through another very opportunistic move. But he's been doing a great job with that. He keeps losing. But here we go. This is what we have to know about. Look at that. There's actually a pretty sizable gap. And now you were talking about the the back end steps out, goes a little bit wide. It comes back onto the racing line, gets collected by the ESET car. That wouldn't be Sirotech. That would be the other ESET driver. Yeah, that would have been Thomas Corney. That would have collected him there. So. That is definitely unfortunate for Thomas Courtney, because really that's not his fault, you know. Car on the racing line, right at the exit of the corner as well too, where when he's moving at a speed where even if he did lay onto the brakes, that would, you know, probably just give him understeer and he would continue to go straight on. So I think really he probably did everything. It was a difficult angle that we saw it at, but certainly that's just a mistake for Thomas Horry. Here we go though. The Entropic car of Podstata is moving out of the draft. Lucas Pichata going defensive, interestingly, through that chicane. So that is sort of the first time. So not quite side by side, but certainly we're seeing them taking different lines now. You can see Podstata really lunging for the apex of the corner there, kind of like a V shape almost on that hairpin, where you can see Lucas Pichata much more smooth with his angle, a bit more of a U shape. And again, you can see Podstata really lunging for that apex, just a really, really sharp angle, finding that apex and then getting onto the power. Certainly he seems to be the faster car. He was only 7 thousandths of a second on the previous lap. There we go. It's now 8 thousandths of a second on that lap. So we're talking about very small distance time differences. However, just based on how they're driving, I would say Podstata probably the faster car. Stepanovsky now up into 16th position, by the way, after having that really difficult start, is making up lots and lots of positions. He's got a big gap to Vakulchik up the road now, so he's got a ways to go. But Stepanovsky doing a great job to pick up positions after a difficult start.
Yeah, don't discount that battle for third either, catching these two. They're going to carry on fighting like that. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Sirotek and Vitti really involved in that lead battle as well. So, but Lucas Brachada's got it all to do. Lucas Podstata has now really found his groove. He's closed that gap down now. That was not far off 2 seconds not that long ago. So Lucas Podstata, having shaken off the challenge from behind, has now closed in hard on the ERT racing car. Oh, I can see that impact coming up. That sent Lucas Brachada wide. Podstata doing the right thing and just allowing Lucas Brachada to get back into position, but that's decimated the gap behind him, as well as this three-way fight is continuing. Oh, no, 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 careful, careful. 3 wide going through Coppice is generally very, well, it's not frowned upon, it's just a very bad idea. But this three-way battle just completely turned round, as Moritz is now at the back of that particular pack. Torres Corony in the ESET car now leading the way. Back up to the lead, and there we go. I didn't quite imagine the top 2 pairs to unite each other quite that quickly, but that was down to that impact that Podstata caused. Now Sirotek is really involved, and he's managed to give himself a bit of breathing space between himself and Eric Vizzi, which I don't envision lasting very long at all. But that, of course, completely changes the feel of that top 2 battle. You could easily expect Lucas Podstata to just keep attacking until eventually he found a way through. Now he can't, because yet again we've got another 3-car train. What a shame, eh? We've got all this racing to talk about. It's terrible, isn't it?
And we've also had Martin Nadlik into the pits and Matuszek into the pits, so they are down into 14th and 18th positions respectively. Nadlik was, of course, involved in that battle for 5th position, which is Pachada, Lehman, Krejci, all of those guys, so he might be looking to try and do an undercut and see if he can make that work. But yeah, look at this. The top 4 have closed right up 1.5 seconds between 4 cars. As you can see on board with Martin Sirotek down at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen in the ESET car, coming onto the start-finish straight down towards the down towards turn 1. 31 minutes, just under 32 minutes, in fact, remaining in this race. And it's been you'd have to say again, Podstata looks to be the quicker driver at the moment, but it was Lucas Pachada that was really controlling things at the start of this race, really kind of broke away. But then, of course, Podstata closing that gap back in. Hasn't really had the opportunity to go on the offensive, to go side by side with the ERT racing car up ahead of him, but he did have that lunge. That was not a gap that existed, though, as many sim racers love to quote Ayrton Senna. That gap did not exist, so it was good to see him back off on that one and allow Lucas Pachada to continue on. But unfortunately, the damage was done, as you pointed out, Chris. The ESET and Lenovo Legion cars are right on the back of him now.
And there's the second ERT racing car of the second Pachada brother, not that far behind either. So it's not impossible for that quartet to become a quintet before the checkered flag falls. And of course, we still have the pit stop to play out for our top runners, so we'll see how that can shake up the field, depending on how well they handle their pit stops. You know, occasionally someone goes in a little bit too hot or overshoots their pit box. We will see as we come through. Goddard's once again. Podstata pressuring hard. Lucas Pachada for that lead. Sirotek not far behind. Now on board with the third place Sirotek car. ESET car of Sirotek. There he is again. Now you'll notice that he tends to kind of saw the wheel to keep the car steady. Now each to their own. Not how I prefer to have the car. I prefer to have it a bit more stable than that. But some people prefer the loose kind of way of doing it. Oh, that's a lot of grass to be taking the old hairpin. We've seen people already spinning out by being on the grass, usually applying the brakes, but the grass is not very forgiving here at Donington Park. We have nasty grass in the UK. And here you go, you can see how blind that turn is at Coppice with that onboard shot. You have to turn in well before you see the apex line. If you turn in when you see the blue and whites, you are way too far into the corner. We can't see from this angle where Eric Vizzy is. He's about 6/10 of a second behind. Oh, great timing with the helicam there. So Sirotek could just concentrate on the battle ahead, and there again, exactly as you were saying earlier, Justin, just the different line the pod starter is taking. Now that could be a bit of a distraction technique to try and put Lucas Pachada off. I think that's just the line. He prefers to take that earlier apex to get the car turned in earlier and on the gas earlier. I think that's the idea, whereas Lucas Pachada prefers that smoother, less speed scrubbed off, more slightly later on the gas kind of technique that smoother line provides. It's working well for both of them at the moment. Their lap times are, well, they will be almost identical because Lucas Podstarter hasn't yet found that extra pace he needs to get past Lucas Pachada. But it's difficult to say whether Lucas Pachada is actually holding up Podstarter. Yeah. I'm not actually that convinced he is. I think the pace is just that similar.
It sort of ebbs and flows. At times, he really does seem to be quite a bit quicker, just, champing at the bit, trying to get by the ERT racing car. You can just see the positioning behind. Certainly, he's a lot closer than anyone else in the top four. Sirotek has a couple of car lengths between himself and Podstada, similar length between Sirotek and Vizzy, but Podstada really just hounding the back of that ERT car. But then you'll see that change in the earlier stages of the lap. So could be down to driving style, it could be down to setup, it could be down to a number of things. It could be down to the way that their tires are wearing. Again, this is a very accurate simulation. So lots of interesting things are going on with the tires and everything like that. So and also it's not just the amount of life left on the tires, but how they're treating them. Are they overheating the tires and stuff like that? Maybe Pachada's overheating the tires in Sector 1, and that's why he's a little bit slower. You can see a big sigh from Lucas Pachada as we went on board with him down the start-finish straight there. That's, one of the few opportunities you do have to sort of relax a little bit as you head down towards Redgate, because this course, after that initial start-finish straight, you're doing a lot of turning left and right until you get to Starkey Straight coming out of Coppice. So this is that part of the lap, or one of those moments in the race. Who knows if it is in fact part of the lap, as I was talking about. It was pure speculation, but this is one of those moments where Pachada does seem to be the quicker car. He seems to be pulling away a little bit from Podstada, and you can see Sirotek actually closing in a little bit. But again, it's always changing. Now we are really starting to get into the pit stop phase, by the way. Again, we had some early pit stops. Stepanovsky's coming into the pits now as well. So yeah, any minute now, we could potentially see one of these top four come into the pits to do something different from the rest of the people, which I'm always a fan of. I always encourage that. I'm hoping somebody does something different and just tries to break out of this group here.
Yeah, we could well see it. As exactly you say, we just saw the blimp camera there. The blimps aren't particularly quick things. They will observe from where they can, as we just about saw the top five. David Pachada a little bit falling off the back of that top four battle at the moment. There it is, look at that. And still Eric Vizzy flashing his lights away. It hasn't worked for you, and I don't think it's going to. I don't think Sirotek is paying an awful lot of attention at the moment. Look at the focus on Lucas Pachada's car. Now, it did make me laugh earlier on. Lucas Podstarter, when he got onto this Starkey Straight, he let go of the wheel for a little while. It's all fun and games for a Lucas Podstarter, but look at the focus. I mean, that's a face. That look in Lucas Pachada's face, that could kill someone. There is so much focus in that face that can you imagine someone disturbing? Can you imagine it knock on the door and the resulting explosion? Just judging by that face alone, that's a determined face. But it's paying off for Lucas, Pachada at the moment. One of these two being the only two drivers to have won a race all season so far. It's paying off for them.
And he would love for somebody to come and harass Podstata, because of course Podstata is the one with that huge championship lead as it stands right now. So he could really do. So he is slowly, especially after the last race, you know, he's starting to eke into that championship lead of Lucas Podstata. But you know, I'm sure he would love to take a nice big chunk out of it. But for that, he's going to need a little bit of help from somebody else. Again, they get so close through that final corner. You can see Podstata a little bit earlier on the throttle coming out. Just gives him a little bit of breathing space. He doesn't have to go defensive heading into... Oh, fastest lap from Podstata there, a 1:26.274. That's only a tenth and a half quicker than Lucas Podstata. But of course, you know, would he be faster if he wasn't behind him? Who knows? Because of course he's getting a little bit of a slipstream at points in the lap, so that might be actually helping his lap times potentially. You know, and we've discussed this before too. It's all about how you set up the car. You can set up the car to just kind of drive in the lead. So Lucas Podstata may have set up his car so that it doesn't really need the slipstream and all of that kind of stuff. Very slippery, difficult to overtake, that sort of thing. Whereas Podstata may have gone for a totally different setup. Who knows with these guys? Chris and I are definitely not drivers. We're even less guys that figure out how to do setups. So we're really struggling when we get into that topic of conversation. But I just want to make everybody aware. Certainly, those kinds of subtle differences do have larger sort of effects, and that may be what we're seeing now. At the moment, and traffic as well is something that could play a big role here, actually.
Well, most certainly will. I think that is Jan Sikora they are catching up to.
Yep.
And voila, it was right. It is indeed Jan Sikora that's going to have, oh dear, 20 penalty points for Jan Sikora. Not sure why that would be the case, unless he was involved in an earlier incident. Perhaps we'll see that, unless that is... unless that's the iRacing penalty points, the incident points, I should say, that may well have forced a drive-through. Not certain on that one, but track limits are really difficult to maintain on this particular circuit, because you're having to drive very much on the limit all that long, especially under conditions like the LPs have been up front. It's very easy just to touch the white line, just to wander that slight bit too far, especially up here, you know, up here at cockpits. As mentioned, it's very blind as you turn in, so it's very easy to just accidentally cut the corner. It's very easy to accidentally run wide. Coming through the fog of DSs, you want to straight line that as much as you can to get the exit speed. As Lucas Podstata has actually given himself half a second leeway here, not something that Siratech has from the advances of Eric Vizzi. He wants to be on the podium once again. So yeah, I'm not surprised that we may well be seeing people that are struggling a bit. Oh, Eric Vizzi, I think you were a tad late on the brakes there, but certainly making himself known to Siratech. Well, he's been flashing his lights at him for most of the race, so I'm sure he knows you're there. But yeah, I'm waiting for the pits to happen, but I wonder whether everyone else is waiting. Oh, there you go. I was just about to say, I wonder whether someone was waiting for somebody else to do it first. Now we're really going to see, does Podstata have that extra few tenths in the tank to try and overhaul the Podstata, you know, the leading Podstata brother?
Rashofsky's into the pits as well, so I like that. Actually, half of the cars that were involved in that battle for the lead pitted, and the other half did not. And we have seen, historically in VGP, we have seen undercuts successful, and we have seen overcuts that are successful as well. So just because they came into the pits first does not mean that they have the advantage. But certainly Lucas Podstata has done an absolutely incredible job under all that pressure, and that was an immense amount of pressure that he was enduring from Podstata. So really incredible job for him to continue as he was. I have no doubt that he's going to be putting in an incredible outlap. I'm very interested to see as well if Podstata and Vizzi are going to continue to stay out, or if they're going to react and come into the pits right away. It seems to me that Vizzi has dropped back a little bit, because of course there was one time where he was within 1.5 seconds of first, and he was in fourth, and now he's 1.6 seconds back from the car that was second. So I don't know if that... Oh, and Alish Danda has retired from the race. That's our second retirement. He joins Thomas Prohaska as a permanent resident of the pit lane, and they are into the pits.
They are indeed into the pits. Now, I was actually wondering whether Eric Vizzi was using the slipstream off of the back of Podstarter to try and leapfrog up into third, but we will see. It was a little bit too far back, realistically, for that to have top 5 all in. Lehman, Podstarter, Vizzi, David Pachada, and Krejci all in. What can Lucas Pachada do here? He's got one of the big shot cars ahead of him. Stepanovsky, I would think. Yes, it is. Oh, it's going to be close. And Lucas Pachada, rather, is back up into the lead. They are going to resume where they left off. And yeah, Siritek has leapfrogged Eric Vizzi again. So well, it's very much status quo. There's a little bit more gap in between each car, but neither the under or overcut has gone anywhere on that one. They've come back out straight into the position they were in, but that was still pretty close.
It was very close, but yeah, unfortunately, and that's why I'm laughing, it's just because every gap has gotten bigger. All 3 of the gaps from first to second to third to third to fourth, they are all bigger than they were, but David Pachada's gap to Lucas Pachada is still the same. So interestingly, it seems that the ERT racing cars both pitted very well, followed by Lucas Podstata, who pitted not quite as well, Siritek, who pitted not quite as well as Podstata, as we've got a big shot car getting very nicely out of the way. That is extremely kind in the way that he was slowing down there. I think that was to Thomas Hora, you would assume, who is, again, really unfortunately having a difficult race, because of course he was involved in that battle with Matuszek and Senel for 10th position. They're not quite that close anymore. Matuszek has built a 2.7 second gap, but he would have been, right in there, 10th, 11th, or 12th, something like that. So it's really unfortunate for Thomas Hora, and of course Stepanovsky had that incident at the start of the race as well. So it's really been an unfortunate race for the Big Shock drivers. They are currently in positions that I would say do not reflect their speed at all, which is always unfortunate. You hate to see that. It's one thing if one driver is having a bad day, but if both drivers are having a bad day, it's especially tragic. So, but yeah, it's as they were at the front, just every gap is bigger. It's now almost 4 seconds from Lucas Pachada down to Eric Vizzi. On the bright side, though, David Pachada now only 2 seconds behind Eric Vizzi. So, maybe it's not Lucas that actually Eric's going to be battling with. Maybe it's going to be David.
Could well be, as Martin Siritek now 2 seconds behind Lucas Podstarter. So now the Entropic card has no one to defend against. He can focus purely on, as he hits those apexes really hard. He's having a good old natter to someone. Maybe he's singing away to himself. He's having a good old time, I think, is Lucas Podstarter. As we come through the Melbourne Heavy, you see how much steering lock they have to put in. Whereas Lucas Pachada, the face of focus on the left-hand side there for ERT Racing Team. Both of them doing a brilliant job maintaining the lead. There is the battle resumed for third position between Martin Siritek and Eric Vizzi.
Do you think he's streaming? Maybe Eric Podstarter is streaming? I don't know.
Could well be. A lot of drivers do stream their performances, so he could be having a good old natter to
following
his chat.
in Hansik's footsteps.
Good old Yaroslav Hansik.
That's not a name we've heard in a while.
It's indeed, but what a character he. Well, it still is. It's still very big in the sim racing scene. Oh, Stepanovsky in the pits. I think that's the second time he's been in.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Big Shock. But yeah, it's never good to see, exactly as you say. And again, Lucas Podstarter is closing back in on Lucas Pachada. So he seems to have it in his car to catch the ERT Racing veteran, but just doesn't seem to have just enough to make the move, unless he's just lurking behind and just running the miles down, either trying to force a mistake or he's going to try and time his attack in such a way that Lucas Pachada can't get him back. We'll see. That wouldn't be what we've seen from him in the past, though. Oh wow, look at that, Michael Lehman on the back of David Pachada in the background as well. I've just noticed the Mecha Awful Sim car has actually closed back in on David Pachada, so we have 3 pairs in the top 6 with obviously a gap in between each pair.
Very interesting. Yeah, previously it was sort of like 2 groups of 4, and now, yeah, they've all kind of split up, which is, I suppose, good news for Lucas Pachada and Lucas Podstata, because they are just laser focused on each other. But of course, the moment that those two start battling, that is going to bring Sirotech and Vizzy into it, unless they start battling as well. Certainly in the background, it looks like Pachada and Lehman are battling. Their deltas are identical, actually, at this moment in time, so I think they might be battling it out for that 5th place position. We will have a replay, of course, if that is indeed the case. But they are still the same way that they were. It is still David Pachada in that 5th place position with Michael Lehman. Oh, there we go. They just switched around. But Pachada still behind in the 2nd place position. He's got a few car lengths or so between himself and Lucas ahead of him. Still a nice size gap over 2.5 seconds down to Sirotech in 3rd position. And it is, as you say, Nadlik versus Krejci. And here we go. There is that battle between 5th and 6th. Michael Lehman, David Pachada is Pachada now having to go on the attack, of course, having lost that position as they go side by side into the S's, which is always so difficult.
Pachada's in the lead.
Yeah, and Pachada's gotten through. Oh, this is the problem with having too many battles, is that you end up looking at one and missing out on another. But at some point, Lucas Pachada, you have to assume, has had a mistake. His last lap time, a 126.6 repeating. Let's see if that, yeah, a 128.3, nearly 2 seconds lost, and that is every invitation that Lucas Pachada needs in the Entropic car. I assume we're going to get a replay of this here, and when it does, Chris, why don't you talk us through it when it comes up in a moment here?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm guessing he's hit the Fog of the S's too hard, because when we picked them up, they were going through the Melbourne hairpin, and Podstarter was already ahead and right on cue. Very nicely done, Nelper. So here we go. We're coming down to the Fog of the S's. What I think he's done, he's just done this a little too hard, and either had to slow down or the tail's going to get a little lively. Yeah, he's hit it too hard, and he's had to have that slow down. So, oh, that's a shame. Right on the... I did say, you know, that's right on the limit, because they want to be straight-lining that chicane as best they can. So now we will see whether, you know, Podstarter does indeed have that extra speed. Now, if he was trying to lurk behind Lucas Pachada, of course, that plan now completely scuppered. But if he does have that extra bit in the tank, he should now be able to deploy it. But at the moment, Lucas Pachada is hanging on to the back of the Entropic car as best he can. And there's the other Pachada having an argument with Michael Lehman, as you know, they swapped around quite a few times in the last lap. But still, you know, brilliant fight. And another pair right behind them. That's Nadlik and Krejci. So still plenty of battling going on everywhere as we're heading towards the last third of the race.
Kujella and Rieger are very close to one another as well, actually, for 12th position. So there's even some more battles outside of this top 10 that's going on as well. But again, so much action. It's actually has been one of the best races I have ever seen at Donington Park. Really, really hugely enjoyable stuff. Love seeing the side-by-side through the old hairpin. That was really incredible. It's rare that you get to see that sort of stuff. And it's great to see the respect that's being given as well. The drivers leaving room for one another and all that. We love to see that. We love that about the Mercedes-Benz VGP series. But yeah, it is David Pachada now down into 6th position. Michael Lehman before, he had absolutely epic pace at the start of the race, but then really seemed to fall off in the second half of the first stint. And now it seems that his pace has returned, so I wonder if he just took a bit too much out of those tires in that opening stint. But here we get to see Pachada and Pachada once again. Lucas Pachada, once again, very close to one another, but the roles have been reversed this time. And it's just over 11 minutes to go in this race for Lucas Pachada in order for him to try and retake what was rightfully his. It was such a small mistake, Chris, but iRacing has no chill whatsoever when it comes to those penalties. And he had to get out of the way. He had to slow right down. He did do that. You know, he did it nice and cleanly right after the corner, got out of Pachada's way. Nothing funny, which we'd love to see. But yeah, he's really running out of time to try and reclaim what was his.
That last lap very slightly in Lucas Pachada's favour, so I wonder whether, you know, Pachada was actually driving at the absolute limit of what he could get out of his car. Now roles reversed, he's not able to run off into the distance, which we've seen time and again in this season, where you know, Lucas Pachada's gotten into the lead and just slowly edged that gap more and more and more and more. No such luck this time around. It looks like it's, you know, the ERT Racing veteran, number 18 of Lucas Pachada. He's just in the tyre tracks of Postado. Of course, right behind them, Sirotek and Vizzy still having that argument for the last podium spot. Still is been with Sirotek, as it has been pretty much all race long. Lehman and David Pachada still having their fight for 5th position as well. And again, Lucas is really closing in within half a second now of trying to challenge for that lead. Less than 10 minutes to go. Just needs to kind of settle the nerves and find that extra pace. It's easy for me to say from the commentary box, but when you've been at the absolute limit all race long, trying to find that extra bit could indeed be the end of his race, off into the dust. But we will see. If anybody can do it, it's these two.
Yeah, really a titanic battle here. But we've said this season it's been unbelievably close, and it has been incredibly close. We can see it's really, really tight. Less than 20 seconds between the top 10 cars. I don't know. I would have to actually look at the numbers and the stats to say for sure, but certainly it feels to me like this has been the closest season that I've ever had the pleasure of commentating, and it's stuff like this. Here we are with less than 10 minutes to go in such a long race, and we've got so many battles still going on, and again, such a small gap as well. One small mistake between this pair, and they will lose a couple of positions or more potentially. So it's really, really difficult for these guys to stay focused for this amount of time, but they absolutely have to, because one small mistake, one small issue, and they will lose lots of positions, honestly. Because right behind, again, just over 10 seconds for the top 8. Very, very tight. And again, we can see Lucas Pachada very, very close to the back of that Entropic car. But we've said it before, catching is one thing, overtaking is another.
And this is where Lucas Pachada's style of going for that early apex is really going to help in defending against Lucas Pachada. He's quite clearly got the pace to stay with the Entropic Championship leader. But with the way that Pachada just goes for that early apex and clearly has done all race long, so it's not just a defensive line he's now adopting. That's his style. That's the way he's always done it. So that's going to make Lucas Pachada's job even harder. But look at this as we work our way through Hollywood, through the crane of curves, down to the old hairpin once again. So Lucas Pachada just piling on the pressure, which again we're not used to seeing Lucas Pachada under, judging by how he's done in this season. We've seen him under pressure a couple of times, but generally he just, as I say, just drives off into the sunset, and that's the last you see of him. No such luck this time, as 7.5 minutes until that checkered flag falls. Oh wow, that looked like quite a lot of apex there from Lucas Pachada, but doesn't seem to be slowing down, so may not have bitten him this time around. Down towards the Fogarty S's, so they need to get a clean run on the exit to maintain that momentum. Now last time around I saw the Entropic car get very, very twitchy on the exit. Lucas Pachada still within 3/10, but no, he's not going to be close enough to make the move. And there again you see the Entropic car just making that turn a little bit earlier towards the apex. That is helping keeping Lucas Pachada at bay.
You can see he's got just enough room, actually, to move over to the racing line as they head into that final corner. Again, really no slipstream of any kind that they're picking up. They might just be getting the faintest whiff of a slipstream as they get into the braking zone for Goddard's, but that's about it. Less than 7 minutes to go. About 1.5 minutes per lap, so about 5 laps, I think, thereabouts.
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. 4 or 5 laps is probably what we're looking at, and we do continue to remain focused on this lead battle, because not only is it obviously for the lead, which gives it a kind of higher priority over all the other battles, but also coincidentally happens to be the fiercest battle that we have going on throughout the field of 20 cars still running in this race. We've had the 2 retirements of Alish Danda, Thomas Prohaska, unfortunately, as well. It's great to see Moritz, by the way, kind of recovered. He got ahead of Sikora when Sikora, I think, had that drive-through penalty, and he's managed to stay ahead of Sikora and stay on the lead lap, in fact, has Moritz. So he had that unfortunate incident early on in the race, but things have gone a lot better for him. And in fact, he's now within 2.5 seconds of a Kulchik. I wonder if he can sneak up into that 15th place spot, as Jan Rieger is coming into the pits. Jan Sikora is no, that's just them coming across onto the line, moving to the left-hand side. I apologize about that. Just over 5 minutes to go, still on board with Postado, looking backwards at the front end of that ERT Racing AMG Mercedes GT3 car. And you can see just how close he was getting, but unfortunately, everywhere it matters, he's not close enough.
And you can just see, actually, this really highlights just how far both drivers are going over the line, but staying just legal. They're keeping just enough rubber on the road to make each turn legal. So again, you'll have to get an idea from the helicam here. Just, yeah, over the rumble strip as much as they dare. Another few pixels, and they'll be off onto the grass and losing all the momentum they need to keep the other one behind. So they are both driving absolutely out of their skin at the moment. So both of them doing a brilliant job to maintain that level of performance and focus for that long. You touched on it earlier, Justin, that staying that focused for that long under those circumstances is really, really, really difficult. I've never led, so I don't know what that's like. But I've been in a particularly a multi-car battle for lap on lap on lap on lap, and it's surprisingly draining. It does really take it out of you. So, those tiny mistakes. And again, Lucas Pachada. I think that's just a difference in driving line. I'm not really convinced that was a move, but Lucas Pachada did seem a bit closer that time around. He's just maintaining the pressure, and the Entropic car did look a little hesitant coming through Goddard's, but it's unless Lucas Pachada is going to absolutely banzai that on the inside of Redgate, it's going to come to nothing. Less than 4 minutes to go.
Incredible stuff, really on the limit, and Lucas Pachada trying absolutely everything that he can to try and get by here, but at the moment it's not even really. I mean, the closest moment that he had there was right as we cut to them at the Melbourne hairpin, and it was so close, tantalizingly close. But yeah, I think you're right, Chris. We were just seeing a slight difference there in driving style. Maybe it was a 700ths of a second faster for Lucas Pachada compared to Lucas Buxton. And looking a little bit further back, we did mention briefly that this battle was going on. But Roshovsky is involving himself as well too. Krejci trying to find his way alongside Martin Neidlich, goes very, very defensive there, which could open up the door potentially. Again, he goes very, very defensive on the run into Coppice. They're going to be side by side through that very high-speed right-hander, switching back, getting the undercut there. Is Krejci. He's going to be to the outside now for this chicane, though. Surely that means that Neidlich is going to have this position. Nearly banging doors. It was difficult to see who was ahead from that angle, but it is indeed Martin Neidlich who continues to lead. For the meantime, that was Matuszek in the background going for a big old spin, and that might be an open invitation to Senol to get back into the top 10 potentially. Here comes Senol. Stanislav Senol is going to be very, very close. Krejci all over the back of the Benzina Orlin car for 7th position as well, and again, they've got that Roshovsky Lenovo Legion car right behind them as well. So this is a three-way battle, and it is going to be 2 more laps here, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Matuszek finding the edge of adhesion there and finding not the quickest way to go through Fogarty S's. He has managed to remain ahead of Senol just about. So he's managed to recover just in time. But yeah, what a great scrap we've got here for 7th position. Martin Neidlich for Benzina Orlin, Krejci for Mecca, and Roshovsky for Lenovo Legion. Down through the crane of curves, down towards the old hairpin again. Is that a move on the inside? You need to be a bit more committed than that. They've both gone off in avoidance of each other, and that's just allowed. Very nicely done. Roshovsky rather said, well, fine, if you're going to have that argument, I'm off. And
wow.
Yeah, nicely done. So fair play to both Neidlich and Krejci there for taking the more cautious line and just losing the speed, but unfortunately losing themselves off into the dust. But Roshovsky perfectly timed there to just nip past both of them.
He said, "Thank you very much," and I will take that with both hands. Thank you. Like that was. Oh man, I'm not going to be over that for a while. I'm going to be thinking about that as I'm falling asleep tonight. I'm going to thinking about Roshovsky just taking the racing line and grabbing a couple of positions. The white flag is out. You can see the white flag being waved so vigorously, and it is Lucas Pachada that leads the way as they come onto the final lap. He's got Lucas Pachada right behind him, but the gap is bigger than what we have seen previously. Stanislav Senol onto the back of the other Entropic car, so it is going to be both of the Entropics going a bit defensive into the final lap here. But both of them within the top 10 as well, both of them looking for a pretty solid result. Unfortunately, Matuszek did lose a couple of positions due to that slowdown at the start of the race, but he has managed to recover back into the top 10. Stanislav Senol, I imagine, will be a little bit disappointed, finishing just outside the top 10 for the first time this season, actually. So it's been a really good season for him so far, but unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be an 11th place finish for him, unless something crazy happens on the final lap. It doesn't look like it's going to be anything too crazy for this pairing, though. Puxtada is through the S's. Whoa, that is very close for Lucas Puxtada, all over the back of him. He is going to go defensive into the penultimate corner, into the hairpin he goes. The ERT racing car goes very, very deep, very late on the brakes, but no, it's not quite enough. Unfortunately, the corner is a little bit too long. Puxtada does maintain the position. He's probably going to have to cover off a dive bomb once again into the final corner. He does very late into the braking zone. A little bit of contact between the two of them, but it is going to be Puxtada who crosses the line with the victory. Lucas Puxtada, unfortunately, due to that issue at the S's, that 2-second time penalty, is going to come home in second position ahead of Martin Sirotek, who gets a very, very well-deserved podium, though. An incredible drive from Sirotek, it's worth pointing out. And Rysovsky, well, he got 2 free positions on the final lap. How good is that?
Yeah, absolutely. He couldn't have asked for more in the closing stages. Yeah, Lucas Puxtada tried everything he could to regain the lead. Wasn't quite going his way. Senol has to contend with sitting behind Matuszek in the closing stages. It's Kujala still arguing, this time with Riga. Let's have a look at what happened with Martin Krejci there. So this is the incident that's going to be down towards... Oh, this is after the old hairpin. What's gone on here with the Benzina Orlan car? Wow, that's a big move going into McLean's. Job done. That's a very forceful way to go through. It's not a common overtaking spot there. So then the podium 3, we've seen this before and we've seen it again. Lucas Puxtada ahead of Lucas Puxtada. Martin Sirotek, very nicely done for reset. And a celebratory donut there from the Entropic car. So full list of results. Lucas Puxtada once again on the top spot. Lucas Puxtada 2, Martin Sirotek 3, Eric Vizzi 4th, Michael Lehman 5th, David Puxtada in 6th, Lucas Rosowski in 7th, Martin Krejci 8th, Martin Nedig 9th, Michael Matuszek rounding out the top 10, Stanislav Senol chasing home the second Entropic car in 11th position, Peter Kujala in 12th, Hansa Riga in 13th, Thomas Corrin in 14th, Josef Vaksiorczyk in 15th, Lubomir Moritz 16th, Jan Sikra 17th, Peter Kavarik 18, Aldrich Stepanovsky 19. Those who didn't see the flag were Thomas Hora, Aleš Danda and Thomas Prohaska. Fastest lap once again going to the Entropic Ace.
And it is, of course, Lucas Puxtada who continues to lead the way. He's now extended that gap to 25 points ahead of Lucas Puxtada. Martin Sirotek in third position on 64 points, 7 points ahead of Martin Nadlik, who's only 4 points ahead of Matuszek. So very, very close. You can see everybody's scored points in the top 20 so far. We had 4 drivers that were yet to score points so far. I'm curious to see if we're going to see any of them. Nope, unfortunately, Kavarik, Svoboda, Sikra, and Tower, none of them picking up points today, so unfortunate for them, but again, they still have another opportunity in the GT3s. It is the Entropic cars that are leading the way with 161 points ahead of the Puxtada brothers, who are 36 points behind, and then it's another 32 points down to the ESET team of Sirotek and Korny after another podium. For the ESET team, looking very, very strong. And then Lenovo Legion with Vizzy and a solid finish for Rysovsky today, 78 points. Thus concludes the penultimate race of the season in the GT3 cars. Next race will be the final in the GT3s with the Tin Tops at the Nürburgring in Germany. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time for round 6 of the season in the Mercedes-Benz Virtual GP.